Embarking on the journey of reading a novel to completion is no small undertaking. It requires patience, dedication, and a willingness to immerse oneself in a world that will gradually unfold, chapter by chapter. But the rewards are immeasurable, and this novel is no exception. Despite the difficulty of the task, this novel is too great to let it rot in obscurity. I want to share it with people. As we dive into its pages, we'll experience a story filled with intrigue, growth, and discovery. Get ready to immerse yourself in a world where every chapter brings us closer to something incredible. Let's begin this adventure together. Without further ado, this is the audio reading of Cult of the Sacred Runes in English. Spring said its farewell with a session of refreshing rain as Green Moon City welcomed yet another summer. The temperature was slightly too warm, making the students from all classes in the South Star Academy sleepier than usual, with the exception of Junior Class 3, where everyone's eyes were as wide open as possible. They were staring into the center of the classroom, where a 15 or 16-year-old girl dressed in white was making a speech. The path of combat is full of obstacles. To rid yourself of your student status, you will need to climb through the star ranks, and once you reach 10 stars, you can then graduate to become a warrior. After the warrior rank, one has to achieve the 3 steps of prime: formed prime, condensed prime, and God's prime. It's anything but simple to achieve any of these 3 primes. The most talented men who broke through and transcended their primal energy to go beyond God's primes are the Supremes, whose duty it is to protect mankind. There have only been 36 Supremes throughout the history of mankind, but that's not the end of our study of mystic powers. Only when one understands the ways of energy from the universe and can create one's own legendary mystic stance does one truly earn the status of a sage. However, I am sure we all know how only 3 people in the history of mankind has reached the level of sage. We can now master tens of thousands of mystic stances, mystic runes, and bone artifacts. I dare say we really are blessed by the gods. Enough of that. Let's talk about mystic runes. The white-dressed teenager was standing on the podium, gazing upon the engaged students with her crystal-clear eyes as she was giving the lesson. Her voice, ethereal and elegant, like a flowing spring, clear and melodious. Her name was Lindsay Ann, student of the class of the gifted in South Star Academy. She was only 15 years old, but about to become a warrior. Some called what she had achieved at her age sinister. Zian learned her craft directly from the vice principal of South Star, and it was a privilege for Junior Class 3 to have her as a substitute teacher. Metaphorically speaking, if the mystic stances are letters and words, then mystic runes would be strokes. It's impossible to write without strokes, so in order to learn mystic stances, one must understand the runes. The triple tidal palm is a low-level spirit mystic stance consisting of 36 basic runes. Today, I am here to teach you the first 3 of the 36. Zian paced back and forth, appreciating the students' gratefulness on their faces from the detailed lecture and demonstration. Her flowing purple hair had a braid by her ear, and she had golden crystal bead decorations in her hair, making it appear almost like a shimmering waterfall. She was wearing a classic white long dress that sculpted her upper body like a work of art. Her arm, bare below her sleeves, was pale as white jade, and on her wrist was a plain silver bracelet. Her elegance was almost indescribable, simplistic, yet different, like a fairy lotus on a snow-capped summit far away from any impurity of the world. Understudy of the vice principal, 10-star student, and an aspiring warrior. Stunning appearances and a mysterious background. All of these characteristics of Zian caused her to be the focus of admiration for the class. Mystic runes are a very complex and cumbersome system But Ziyan wrote them perfectly with ease. She turned around to keep eye contact with the students as she finished the runes, which allowed students to get a glimpse of her neck and collarbone, complemented by the shine of the silk dress. Like moonlight, it would charm anyone who put their eyes on her. The Junior 3 class students were around 12 and 13 years old. They looked as childish as ever, sitting there respectfully, staring at Miss Ziyan with adoration and admiration. Miss Ziyan is so beautiful. I have to become a warrior to fight by Miss Ziyan's side against the demons, were what the majority of the boys had in mind. To fight by her side was and would become some of the boys' life goals and impossible dreams. In the rearmost of the classroom sat a slightly skinny boy, spaced out and not really noticed by the rest of the class. He had very proportional and defined chiseled facial features. Not that handsome, but there is a witty killer look in his eyes that made up for how generic he looked. The boy, Ye Wei, had very low self-awareness and self-esteem. Didn't stand out in class or in family gatherings. The images of disappointed faces of his relatives when they learned Ye Wei's sentient was red caused only a small facial spasm. This memory every now and then comes to haunt him. Mystic runes. I have no hope of becoming a warrior in this life. Why should I even bother learning mystic runes? I have no mastery over my primal energy. Also, I don't really think I can sketch a worthy rune. Ye Wei started thinking about the result he had gotten during the last entry test into South Star he took, and he squeezed out a self-deprecating smile from the corner of his mouth. His veins were bulging from holding his fist tight in a rush of frustration. The sentient sorting system categorized the quality of new students from red to violet, and there were 7 levels named after colors of the rainbow. Red being the lowest, and coincidentally what Ye Wei had. Thus, the tutors at South Star didn't really expect Ye Wei to be more than a 10-star student, and being a warrior was definitely out of the picture. Bullied and teased at school, and on top of that, nobody in my family is interested in me. Ye Wei kept self-reflecting. I would love to be a genius like Miss Ziyan, or a warrior like my cousin Ye Zong, the pride of our family. I wish to be admired as well. Why is reality so cruel? Ye Wei carried too much remorse from his underachievements. It built up so much that he even tried the dangerous booming multiple times, but failed to improve his sentient. The booming was basically breaking and reforming your sentient. Several years of trying, which ultimately got him nowhere. This pain was not something ordinary people could endure. Although Ye Wei never gave up and was constantly trying, it was all for naught. Ye Wei pursed his lips slightly, a touch of bitterness lingering in his heart. His fingers were unconsciously poking around on the table, and he had no intention of listening to the lecture at all. On the desk in front of him lay a book made of craft paper. On the cover of the book, a majestic green mountain rises high into the sky. There seem to be a few vague characters on the green hill. Although it's not clear what is written, there is a vague sense of grandeur. This dilapidated ancient book was picked up by Ye Wei from the garbage in the basement of the family. According to rumors, the former Ye family was extremely powerful, and they even had a supreme in the family. However, that glorious past has long since been annihilated in the dust of history. Ye Wei unconsciously caressed the cover of this dilapidated ancient book, which had a rough texture, giving it an indescribably weird feeling. What Ye Wei didn't know was that when he stroked the old book, a strange force invisible to the naked eye was using his fingers as the center and spreading out rapidly, like ripples on the water's surface, spreading circle by circle. Ye Wei yawned and suddenly felt sleepy. His eyelids couldn't hold it any longer, and in a trance, he lay on the old book and fell asleep. Ye Wei fell into a long dream, and in this long dream, Ye Wei dreamed of a towering green mountain, luxuriant pines and cypresses. If you really looked close enough, you could see hundreds of millions of figures and lines all over the mountain. They seemed to resemble runic carvings, which were moving in a wave-like motion. almost making it seem like the mountain was alive. All of a sudden, the mountain shattered into pieces of flame, spitting rocks, and before Ye Wei could do anything, one of the rocks flew towards him. The mysterious lines on the rock came alive and left the rock to attach themselves onto Ye's head. They immediately started drilling and boring, evolving and transforming into information on different kinds of mystic runes, giving Ye Wei a monumental headache. The mountain on the rugged ancient book cover disappeared silently. Soon after, the book itself turned into fine dust, returning to nature with the summer breeze. Chapter 2. Ye Wei dreamt for a long time. He dreamt about the first year of history, the Grand Descent, about how the sages surveyed Mystic Mount, about them gaining understanding of the mystic runes and creating 3,000 mystic stances. He dreamt about the swordmaster refining demons or manes, and then forging them into mystic arms. And lastly, he dreamt of the combat master dictating the mystic scrolls, which were then spread all over the world. Ye Wei's mind kept wandering as the dream seemed to carry on for centuries. Meanwhile, Lin Ziyan was still lecturing and explaining the inner workings of mystic runes. Her lecture was vivid. She tried to make the students understand how much the three sages' attributes mean to the world as they know them. By appropriately referencing some classical volumes, she was doing a great job of keeping the attention of the class, except our one and only Ye Wei. Is this kid planning on ever waking up? Miss Ziyan glanced toward the back of the room. Her stare clearly expressed how displeased she was with Ye Wei, as he had already slept half the lesson away, despite her best efforts to make a bland topic sound relevant and interesting. But all this meant as little to Ye Wei as pearls do to pigs. Even when Miss Ziyan was angry, her elegance did not fade. It made her even more attractive. The boys sitting on Ye Wei's left looked disgusted by Ye Wei's behavior, fast asleep in their favorite teacher's class. The disrespect was unbearable for them. Ye Wei, you are a bloody disgrace of our class. How dare you sleep through Miss Ziyan's lectures? Maybe I didn't kick his ass hard enough last time. The owner of these thoughts was a 13 to 14-year-old looking teenager, Zhao Qi. Zhao Qi is always cold. It is evident in the way he is staring at Ye Wei right now, in the way he talks to others, and how he keeps a distance between himself and other human beings in general. Maybe it is due to the fact that he doesn't need anyone. Top of the class, 5-star student, and the son of a South Star Academy senior instructor. Zhao Qi was an admirer also of Miss Ziyan. Zhao Qi was gifted. It might have come from his parents, as both of them are senior instructors at South Star. Raised by them two, Zhao's mastery and knowledge over mystic runes exceeded the rest of the class by a modest margin. Miss Ziyan appreciates and recognizes his talents, and on a few occasions, she couldn't help but praise him. That boosted Zhao's ego by a mile, which was also the reason why Zhao Qi decided he's the guardian of Miss Ziyan. Ye Wei's behavior contradicts many guidelines in his mind as to how people should behave in Miss Ziyan's class, which means, yes, Zhao Qi was furious. Zhao Qi's aggression was beginning to show from his posture. Oh gosh, Ye Wei, you idiot. Never learn, do you? Falling asleep in this lesson in front of Zhao Qi? Ha! Good luck with that. A few students started gossiping and betting how and when Zhao was going to kick Ye's head in. Popcorn time, they thought. At this point, Ye Wei was still only a 1-star student, taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back in terms of his training. It takes a little effort, if any, for the 5-star Zhao to beat up Ye. In regards to star levels, the first 4 are relatively easy to get through, and there are no obvious changes to one's body except enhanced stamina. But once a student reaches 5 stars, their physique will become way better. The primal energy nourishes the skin and the muscles, making it possible for one's skin to become tough as steel under impact. The enhanced muscles will cause one's strength and speed to improve drastically. Zhao Qi, being a 5-star student, and Ye Wei stuck on the first star, the distance between them was vast, like the mud on the ground, compared to a fluffy cloud in the sky. Ye Wei sat next to Cao Ning, and they maintained a healthy relationship with each other. They usually helped each other out, both in and out of class. Seeing the anger Zhao directed towards Ye building up, Cao tried nudging Ye in an attempt at waking him up. However, it didn't work at all, as Ye Wei remained motionless, much like a dead pig. The nudge usually works. Bro, it's not that I don't want to save you from this one, but you're too far gone, Cao thinks with a wry smile on his face, rolling his eyes a little. At this point, Ye Wei was still stuck in the dream, where an uncountable amount of mystic runes were heading straight to his sentient, filling and overloading them. In the dream, Ye Wei wandered into his own sentient. He could see it changing, undergoing metamorphosis. His sentient was now showing a hint of gold, with countless mystic runic patterns circulating. Has the whole bothersome red sentient situation changed? Ordinarily, the color of one's sentient can only be one of the 7 colors of the rainbow. A golden sentient was unheard of. Ye Wei's sentient was still mainly red, but a touch of gold was definitely present. Boom! His sentient finally expanded, and it's about to crack into pieces. Ah! Ye Wei suddenly woke up, covered in cold sweat, panting and gasping for air, and his head was still mildly aching. With a hint of fear lingering on his face, he started rubbing his temple, attempting to shake the headache. His vision started to clear up, and the objects in front of him looked like tables and chairs again as he regained consciousness. At this point, the whole class had their judgmental eyes set on Ye Wei due to the scream he let out. Is this Ye Wei guy for real? Let's say we forgive him for sleeping through Miss Zian's class. The screaming and the nightmares are a bit much. This guy is seeking attention or what? This daydreaming cretin? The class started talking. Ye Wei isn't the brightest of minds, but usually he's better disciplined in class and didn't put his nose into other people's business. Is he doing this to catch Miss Zian's attention? Oh God, Ye Wei is going to get into trouble. A couple of kind-hearted students saw Zhao Qi's ashen, angry face and started to sympathize for Ye Wei, as they know for sure a beating was coming. The classroom filled with laughter over Ye Wei's apparent stupidity and also sympathetic sighs. But Ye Wei seemed to be ignoring all of the noise. His eyes showed no emotion. He had a big frown, as if he was experiencing great pain. New knowledge about hundreds of thousands of mystic runes was jumping around in his head, overloading his mind and trying to become part of his memory. As his mind gradually settled, his eyes stopped darting around erratically and regained focus. What was that towering mountain in my dream? What happened to my sentient? Why did I fall asleep? And why did I have such a ridiculous dream? Ye Wei's gaze displayed how lost and incredibly surprised he was about the experience. His mood was also slightly affected by the long dream, and a peace and calmness grew inside of him. Miss Zian had decided to pause her lecture. She was well-mannered and patient. She tolerated Ye Wei sleeping through her lecture, but the screaming disrupted her attempt to educate, and that was simply just too rude and out of line. You, stand up. She gazed upon Ye Wei. Her crisp voice seemed a bit stern. Ye Wei realized Miss Zian was addressing him, so he quickly stood up. What's your name? Zian kept eye contact with Ye Wei, asking with annoyance. Zian was frustrated, as she enjoyed giving lectures, and she liked the company of most of these students. She always over-prepared for her lectures, and the students usually enjoyed how enthusiastic she was with teaching. It was unimaginable that someone would fall asleep in her lectures, but this act of disruption topped the unimaginable. Ye Wei, he replied subconsciously. while slowly raising his head. Half of his body didn't know it was awake. Information was slowly arranging itself in chronological order in his head. This is Lin Zian, one of the best students in the class of the gifted, South Star Academy, 10-star level, soon-to-be warrior, kind of a goddess in this academy, and our substitute teacher for the day. Yewei looked at her for a couple more seconds. Her lilac-glazed waist-length hair flows in the wind as the fragrance from her hair diffuses across the room, waking Yewei. I'm in the middle of a class. He finally sobered up and realized, this kid, hasn't he woken up yet? Miss Zian looked at Yewei, observing him. He's slightly taller than her, slim build. The proportional facial features and the dreamy eyes displayed a cool and relaxed temperament. Openly and shamelessly sleeping in class, screaming and disturbing. Even Zian has great patience, but this goes beyond that. Although she's only a substitute teacher for Junior 3, she gives her all to the job, not giving up on a single student. Yewei was recognized as a waste of a seat in the classroom by many, and teaching him was as hard as building a wall with nothing but mud. Even still, Zian cared, and was willing to pay extra attention to help him in class. Giving him one last chance, Miss Zian said, Yewei, come up to the podium. You're listening to Cult of the Sacred Runes, reading by NoGymNeeded, Chapter 3. Is Miss Zian losing her temper? Sleeping through Miss Zian's class and disrupting with sheer rudeness? How can Miss Zian not be angry? Miss Zian is undoubtedly the most popular girl in our academy. Yewei can kiss his life goodbye if her admirers catch wind of this little episode of indiscretion. Most of Junior 3 were grinning mischievously, as if they already knew how this story would end, with Yewei rotting in a corner. Pfft, he had it coming. There's no one he could or should blame but himself, Zhaoqi taunted. It was obvious he was enjoying this moment, from how much the corner of his mouth curled up. Yewei, right? Have you ever heard of the story of the Supreme Qin Feng? Miss Zian spoke with the utmost sincerity, while keeping eye contact with Yewei, and sounding elegant as usual. Yewei's talent was almost non-existent, and chances were that he would never become a warrior in his lifetime. But he is still Zian's student, and she felt that guiding him is her obligation. Supreme Qin Feng had nothing more than a red sentient to work with when he was a teenager. But he didn't give up, didn't point fingers, or complain to anyone. Instead, he put his efforts into studying, thus understanding mystic runes. He perfected the evergreen stance, the raging bull stance, and also the blazing butterfly stance. The year he became 30, he became a household name, a renowned rune master. Since then, he created many mystic stances, and in the process, he also managed to upgrade his sentient from red to blue. Ultimately, he was able to become a supreme. Your sentient isn't something set in stone. By practicing, perfecting, and creating mystic stances, one can resonate with nature. This ultimately yields energy from the cosmos, which acts as a distiller. It cleanses and refines, thus upgrading the sentient. That being said, creating and perfecting stances is easier said than done. Only a handful of prestigious rune masters are capable of such a feat. Ordinary souls don't stand a chance. Rune Master is a class above warrior. As the title suggests, they are extremely proficient at the art of mystic runes. They can refine them, create them, and they can even inscribe mystic scrolls. The power of a rune master is sought after by powers governing bodies and the rich and evil. To have a rune master on one side often means winning wars and conquering nations. There is only one rune master at South Star Academy, and he is none other than the vice principal. Although the principal and the school board has more power over administrating the academy, these people with fancier titles had the utmost respect for the vice principal. The reason rune masters are so highly valued is because of how truly rare they are. First, rune masters needed to master 360 1,000 basic mystic runes, of which every basic rune has its own complexities and properties. Therefore, it's basically impossible to master them if one was talentless, even if you spend your whole life studying. Furthermore, mastering 360,000 runes is just the bare fundamentals of becoming a rune master. Soul sensitivity is the key to feeling mystic runes, allowing one to find flaws or just ways to improve runes. The stronger one's soul sensitivity is, the more powerful the runes one can create and refine. One can only become a rune master by having satisfied these harsh and strange requirements. That is where their prestige and powerful status comes from. Supreme Chen Feng? Ye Wei slowly nodded, listening to Miss Xian's mild scolding, which was kind of heartwarming. He had been sleeping and shouting in class, and as his punishment for the offenses, he got a motivational story. The path to mastery is through practice. It's never too late to start. Let's see how well you know these 3 mystic runes. Miss Xian turned ever so slightly toward the blackboard. With her slender fingers, she pointed at the 3 mystic runes she drew on the blackboard. As she turned, the neck opening on her white gauze dress exposed her extremely delicate collarbone, and looking at her from the back made her look even slimmer. Her long hair hung like a classic-looking curtain in an ancient castle. The top half of her dress was a tight fit, contouring her body, highlighting her curves. Ye Wei was fast asleep like a pig when Miss Xian was describing the properties of these 3 runes. There was no way he could recognize what they were, let alone how they worked. He's basically so dumb that even if the runes were flowing inside him, he wouldn't be able to tell whether it was an itch or a rune in his body, a couple of mouthy students whispered jokingly in mocking tones. Zhao Qi was sitting on the other side of the room with a twisted, playful grin on his face. The grin caught Ye Wei's attention as he groaned. Zhao Qi's and his personalities were a monumental mismatch, and furthermore, Ye was only a mere 1-star student, unlike Zhao, who was a 5-star. We can all imagine how well these two got along and how much they had in common. The thought of having to be treated like dirt by despicable characters such as Zhao Qi was getting less and less appealing to Ye Wei. He took a deep breath and raised his head to look at the 3 basic runes on the blackboard. Out of nowhere was a spark of inspiration. The runes felt familiar, almost like they were flowing in his bloodstream. Ye Wei blurted out, "These 3 mystic runes are from the rune set Water Seal. The set itself contains 72 runes, and all are water-type runes. These 3 runes are used in low spirit level stances like the Triple Tidal Palm, Fist of the Oscillating Waves, Water Parting Finger, and Condensating Palm, among others. The most used stance that uses these 3 mystic runes should be the mid-spirit level Ice Mirror Seal." His eloquent speech on runes and stances surprised even himself. When did I learn all this? The winding runes glimmered faintly in Ye Wei's sentient as he was talking about them. As Ye Wei's little speech echoed in the classroom, all the students were shocked. Everyone stopped what they were doing, their eyes wide open, looking at Ye Wei, stunned into disbelief. Was Ye Wei actually right? How is this possible? Zhao Qi, too, was stunned. He couldn't even comprehend how Ye Wei could possibly understand the 3 runes Miss Xian was talking about while he was asleep. Not bad. Miss Xian looked Ye Wei right in the eyes as she praised him. Seems like he wasn't asleep for the whole thing. Maybe he was listening half awake and picked up a thing or 2. Upon hearing this praise, Ye realized that the knowledge on runes he had learned from his dream was real. And this dream might be related to that magical book, which strangely now was nowhere to be seen. Inside his sentient, there were countless runes flowing around, shimmering in a golden hue. Mystic runes are way more complicated than that. I bet this idiot won't be able to answer if Miss Zian digs deeper with her questions. It was just dumb luck. Zhao Qi was trying so hard, looking at Miss Zian, trying to send her a telepathic message. Ask him more questions, hoping Ye Wei would make a fool of himself answering them. Miss Zian got the signal as she chuckled and asked, "So, how many runes are used in Fist of the Oscillating Waves? I went through that in class just now." 16. "How about Water Parting Finger?" 21. Ye Wei answered with great fluency. It was out of everyone's imagination that Ye Wei knew enough to answer these questions, and everyone in class was looking at each other in awe. He couldn't have picked up this much before he fell asleep. Everyone was guessing he studied previously and learned before attending today's lecture, as there was no way he could have learned all of this from Ziyan's teaching while he was fast asleep having a nightmare. What they didn't know was Ye Wei did learn all of that during his sleep, and how much he learned was completely beyond their imagination. As Ziyan was looking at Ye, his relaxed posture displayed a sense of indifference. She wanted to test his rune knowledge further and see what level he was on. She blinked and asked him the next question with a smile on her face. How many mystic stances can one compose with these 3 runes? The spotlight was on Ye Wei again, as everyone in class looked to him, waiting to see what his answer would be, as the questions Miss Ziyan just asked was not covered in the lecture. Even the students who were paying full attention wouldn't be able to answer it, let alone the clueless Ye Wei who slept through the lecture. I don't see anyone else in Junior 3 other than myself and Miss Ziyan who could provide an answer. Zhao Qi laughed at Ye Wei as he took a nice deep breath, holding his head high. With pride, he scanned the classroom, feeling superior to the rest of the flock, his eyes finally settling on Miss Ziyan. He was looking forward to basking in the glory of answering the questions when Ye Wei finally chokes, so he can gain even more presence in Miss Ziyan's heart. Zhao Qi's parents are senior class instructors at the academy, and when it comes to knowledge on runes, it's safe to say Zhao Qi is the best in class. There are, in total, 38 low-level spirit stances, 12 mid-level spirit stances, and 6 high spirit stances that consist of these 3 runes. The pressure of being the center of attention did not make Ye Wei hesitate. With his eyes on Miss Ziyan, he answered calmly and with certainty. Nonsense! Ye Wei, can you please just keep it shut if you don't know the right answer? People are trying to learn in this class, and you are not helping. Zhao Qi stood up with intensity, looking down on Ye Wei, showing nothing but contempt, meaning every word he said, hoping it would teach Ye Wei a lesson. Zhao Qi has been waiting to let this frustration out. Now he feels relieved. Oh, Ye doesn't know what he's talking about. I'd have guessed Ye had it right, judging by how calm he looked. Ye Wei is definitely a confident man. Zhao Qi is the best student in Junior 3, both in real combat and rune knowledge. His level is way beyond the others. Now that Zhao is calling Ye's bluff, everyone in class believed Ye was talking trash, and therefore started judging him. Ye Wei, may I educate you with the correct answer? There are 36 low-level spirit stances, 10 mid-level spirit stances, and 5 high-level spirit stances that are made up by the 3 runes we just went through in class. The sneer on Zhao Qi's face was ice cold as he stared at Ye Wei with pride. I am second to none in this class when it comes to rune knowledge, he thought. Surprisingly, though, Miss Ziyan did not correct Ye Wei. Instead, she looked at him with her crystal-clear eyes. Zhao Qi is not wrong, Ziyan slowly said. Zhao Qi instantly became proud of himself after Ziyan's approval. While staring down Ye Wei with a playful glare, you have nothing on me, Ye Wei, you piece of trash. Ziyan wasn't finished, but Ye Wei is also correct. At this point, everyone in class was shocked. How can they both be right? Zian looked at Ye Wei, showing a hint of curiosity. Some stances take a big toll on the practitioners' bodies and minds. As such, they are listed as forbidden. If you count those, Ye Wei was correct. The classroom went completely quiet. The forbidden mystic stances were documented, then archived in the Academy Court, which is only accessible to warriors, and even they don't always have access to them. Where on earth did Ye Wei learn about the forbidden stances?